What's up? Hold on. What's up, y'all? I am back for another video. Today, I am reviewing The Howling. Since it's Halloween, I figured do more, not just slashers, do some werewolf movies. So next Tuesday, I am going to be doing American Werewolf in London. But The Howling is a great one. It's one I saw, funny because of stream. Because, there's the line from Randy when he talked about when a girl asked about The Howling where the VHS is. So I actually ended up watching it. It is a weird one, but though been a few years since I've seen it, so I rewatched it today, and man, it is a trip. Because I didn't remember it being about like this colony of werewolves. I was thinking it was something like American Werewolf in London. It's like one, but the werewolf design I actually really dig. I think that's like one of my favorite things is how good the werewolves look. And the lighting is right, so you can tell, so you can't fully tell it's a person in a costume, but the costume looks good enough. The gore is there. I actually like that it starts off like this because they're looking for this serial killer Eddie Quist who's obsessed with Catherine, who's the main character, who's this news anchor, and they set up a fake meeting because she works with police. He ends up getting killed, and then she ends up going to this resort, which is like this secluded community called the Colony. And there's a bunch of weird people. And slowly you find out it's actually, they're all a bunch of werewolves. And I think Karen is the name of the main, basically she's like the one kind of turning everybody into werewolves. I'm not going to lie, she forgot. But it was a fun little movie. It's an interesting little werewolf movie. I love the werewolf design, that big chase when Eddie is chasing, I think it's her friend Anna or Annie, one of those, in the woods into the morgue, and he ends up killing her. I thought that was a fun little scene. That's gonna be the thumbnail, is that shot of the wolf standing over. And then the werewolf design looks really good for I think this was I'll have to look later on, but I'm just assuming this is 80 something. So 81. Now I'm remembering now. 81, very early 80s. So, for 81, looked pretty good. I actually dug the werewolf outfit. It's probably pretty good werewolf design. I think the same year was American Werewolf in London. It was relatively the same time these came out. So, I'll be doing that next week. Tomorrow, I'm doing Wolf Creek 2. But before we get into the movie, if I had to rate it, I'd give it about a 8 out of 10. I dug it. I like the score. I like the atmosphere. Eddie Quist, even before he becomes a werewolf, is pretty creepy. And you find out that this colony is a bunch of werewolves, and the cop character has to come in and I think he's like a deputy. I think has to come in and save Catherine. I thought that scene was fun. And I love the scene where they're about to turn, and he tries to basically lock them in a farm or in a barn kind of thing. And then some of them break out and get a chase scene with him in the car. And then I love the ending where it reveals that she's still alive. So apparently I'm going to look and see if there are sequels, and I'll eventually review those. But I definitely did like the first Howling. This is a great one. I heavily recommend it. It's an interesting take on werewolves. It's not necessarily a traditional werewolf story because there's a bunch of werewolves in this, not just one. But I think even when they're not in wolf form, the people who are the werewolves are genuinely creepy. Like when they kidnapped Catherine and all that, and you get that big reveal. Thought it was great. So, yeah. So tomorrow I'll be doing Wolf Creek 2, which I can't wait to check out because I really love that first one. That first one was such a good movie. And if Matt McTaylor's still in it, from what it looks like, it's going to just be a different group of people, which I'm okay with. So, yeah. So, the movie starts we meet Catherine, who's this news anchor. She's, if I had to say, I guess a weak element in the movie, I guess it would have been her. I didn't feel like she really brought it. I I actually don't even think it's her character. I think it's more more the actress. I just don't think she really played it, especially the scene where because she believes her husband's basically cheating on her. This is seen later, and it's like, sorry, I'm coughing a lot, but it's like she just didn't pull it off, and maybe even her friend maybe should have you could have swapped actors. She should have probably been her friend should have been that role. But aside from that, it's a fine movie. I think it's still a really good movie. It's more about I think the environment carries it to where you can overlook that. Yeah, the actress probably for her wasn't the greatest, but she wasn't horrible necessarily. I just thought some of the scene, like the crying scene, she was trying way too hard. So, so she's being stalked by Eddie Quist, who's a serial killer. And I gotta say, Eddie, like I said, he was pretty creepy even before we, find out he's a werewolf. I actually genuinely did think he was creepy because there's even a scene where they arrange a fake meeting, because she's working with the police, um, at this sleazy like theater, and he basically shows her videos of what he's done essentially. And yeah, he's pretty brutal. And like I said, this movie doesn't really hold back on the gore and all that. So I think something happened. No, he either like I think if I remember right, he gets a wind of basically that it's like a setup, and then the cops come in and I think he attacks her because she ends up getting amnesia and basically forgets what happened. But he ends up getting killed, seemingly, and yeah, and her and her husband start like arguing. So they're suggested to go to the colony, which is like this secluded kind of resort in the woods, and they end up going. You see like a bunch of weird characters through, and I love that about these kind of movies. Is just you kind of can accept these very over the top characters. There's literally characters like a nymphomaniac. Like I fucking love it. You just accept it. It's just part of the movie. And then Catherine's husband initially gets seduced by Karen, who's like the main one, basically turning everybody. And I thought she was a generally good character. And she tries to seduce him. He turns her down. He ends up getting attacked by one of the wolves. Ends up getting scratched. And basically, the reveal is, I'm just going to spoil it, because I already did spoil it, but that this colony is basically a bunch of werewolves. So her friend is there, and they don't think, and they're still trying to find out what the weirdness is going on at this place. But obviously you get those scenes where no one believes her, and she sees that her husband has scratches on his back, and she thinks it's obviously he's having an affair. That's what she thinks, and then he snaps on her, and then she runs out. And while this is going on, Anna gets chased, finds like this building that has all this information, and basically seemingly ties to Eddie Quist. So they basically think he's still alive, essentially. Then she gets attacked by a werewolf. We get a pretty good chase scene into like the morgue where she ends up getting killed. You don't fully see it. You see like the blood. You just see her get lifted, and then gets killed. And then Catherine, looking for Anna, finds her body. Then we see Eddie Quist now alive, but he's now a werewolf. And this transformation scene was pretty good. I'm not gonna front. I still think the best werewolf transformation scene is from American Werewolf in London, but this one was pretty good. Like the fucking face was throbbing. I love the animatronics in these old 80s horror movies. They really put like all their effort into the like just the special effects back then, and not just overly rely on CGI or just all that. Just like that looks good. Like his face is like all throbbing and shit. It makes sense. Like that kind of would happen when someone would become a werewolf. So I'm okay with that. So, um, and like I said, they don't hold back on the violence. So she ends up getting, we get a little chasing, but she basically ends up getting taken by Eddie and back to the colony. Now they're in their human forms, and this is where they basically everyone now knows that it's a colony of werewolves. And I love these characters. They're a bunch of weirdos, and it makes sense that they're werewolves. I like it. I like it. It has like a wolf pack kind of aspect to it. Um, so the sheriff, or I think his deputy actually, looks for, well, because he finds the body and looks. Well, then Eddie attacks him. Um, because when he turns around, Eddie's there alive. So, and this is where we see Karen's like basically in her wolf pack, and yeah, man, I really like the wolf designs in all these movies. So the movie has a good pace too. It's it goes. It's only an hour and a half. Um, so and I thought they were all pretty good. The villains, and then yeah, the deputy has to come and save her. They're starting to transform, and I love it because they also have guns of their own. Because he comes back with silver bullets, basically now knowing if they're werewolves, or he always knew, something like that. Like, I respect that about a movie where it just goes with it. So yeah, he just starts like, one of them doesn't believe it's a real, like, he thinks he's like basically bluffing about the silver bullets. He just shoots him. It's pretty great. And then yeah, they're starting to transform, and I love it. Like the teeth are growing, the eyes are kind of like starting to change color. I love the little details like that. And then he locks them all in the barn and gets Catherine, um, pours gas on it, and then sets it ablaze. A couple of them get burned, but some of them do break out, like start attacking the car. When they start, we get a fun little chase scene. Like the wolves are really well done in this movie. And I'm just gonna side rant before we go back into the movie. I'm just so over the disrespect a little bit that werewolves get. I feel like there are just not enough werewolf movies. We always get it. I love vampires, don't get me wrong. And I get it. The lore is a bit more intricate. So I kind of understand in that sense a little bit why there is more vampire stuff. But it is a little bit like werewolves are cool, and I wish we did get more movies like that, like more dog soldiers, or even something like this. Even American Werewolf in London. I feel like there's so moved on from werewolves. Like Underworld was kind of like that was like that had all of them though. Like I want this just straight up werewolf movie. I would not mind a dog soldier style werewolf movie again. I would love that. So I just wanted to do that side rant, but I just think the whole idea of like the inner beast has always been kind of an interesting story for a story, like something out of your control at a couple times a year when there's a full moon. For a couple days, you turn into this monstrous being that you have no control over. Makes for really good storytelling. I just don't understand. And I get it, vampires have way more lore, obviously the way they die and the amount of vampire media there's been, I understand. To that extent, I get it, but I do think werewolves are a little bit underrepresented, I guess if you're to use that word. But anyway, this movie is great. So basically, they end up seemingly kill all the werewolves, to say vampires. But I love this scene, like they're driving and they're even getting attacked. And even though some of the lighting isn't great in this scene, I still really like it. And then she goes on to do a news report. Everything seems normal. And then he's cooking a specific burgers. We see that Karen's still alive. That she actually made it out. So basically it sets up for a sequel. So I love this movie. I'm going to look into if there's some Howling sequels out there, and I'll do them. Not next week, because I'm going to probably do American Werewolf in London, since it's a perfect movie to do after this one. But I'll definitely do the sequels at some point. Hopefully I'll look and see how many there are. Hopefully, it's not a lot. I don't think there should be. I'm probably thinking if there are maybe two max. I think there's maybe like one other movie, and then maybe I could see three max. But I'm thinking two maybe. So I'll look into it. But yeah, I really like this movie. The score was good. The atmosphere was good. The practical effects. Chef's kiss, man. That scene where Eddie is transforming, they really put the budget into it, and it ages very well. It looks fucked up, and it looks painful. Like the process to transform. That's one thing I love about werewolf transformations. Is it makes sense to be painful as you're growing, because you're growing claws. Your mouth's gonna grow out because you're growing a snout. Like it's that just looks painful. I think this one really captures it. So yeah, I really like it. I definitely recommend it, especially if you love werewolves. Just it's a good one. Decent characters. I personally, I would probably make the deputy character the main guy, and then maybe Catherine could have been one of the side characters, but I don't know if I made her the lead. If that'd be my only change in the movie. But other than that, and I get it. She was intricate to the plot because of the beginning of the movie. But yeah, guys, overall I really like it. So be reviewing it. Reviewing fucking Wolf Creek 2 tomorrow, which I can't wait to do. I can't wait to see what, granted as fucked up as I know it's gonna be, what Mick Taylor's can do, because I think he's a great killer, man. That first one's very dark. So I'm interested to see where we go in the second one. I'm assuming it's gonna be like different characters. And yeah, I hope it's good. I don't know if it'll be as good as that first one, but one thing, like I said, it's raw, and I sometimes think there's room for horror like that. So, other than that, guys, talk to y'all later.